Today I want to talk to you a little bit about being an expat in the Philippines, or just in general, really. What it takes, the things you're going to have to plan for, the things that are going to happen to you that may be unexpected. Um, One thing I've come to learn here, or in any country really, is to expect the unexpected. Nothing is really ever going to go completely to plan. There's always going to be a wrench thrown in the gear somewhere. So be flexible. That is my number one tip. Always be flexible. Be willing to adapt and overcome. Um, the main hurdle for me here in the Philippines, surprisingly, hasn't been the language. Many people here speak English and speak it fairly well. Lots are fluent, lots are semi-fluent. So I've learned a little Visaya, not much Tagalog, but there are like 163 different dialects or languages here in the Philippines. So it's going to take some time on my part. But luckily, a lot of people understand me and I understand them. And there is always hand gestures that, like eating or whatever that or money, you can always communicate that way with the older generation that don't necessarily speak English well. Um, but as a courtesy, if you're traveling to a different country, especially if you're planning on moving there, I would recommend at least learning some of the key phrases to get by and to make things a little smoother for yourself and for the individuals that you interact with, just as a courtesy, really. Plus, learning a new language is pretty cool, in my opinion. Let's see. Oh, the big thing that you will have to adapt to, or at least that I have, is weather. In the U.S., you're used to pretty mild weather. I'm from the Midwest myself, so we get, you know, decent winters. It's going to be pretty cold and pretty humid summers. And I thought, oh yeah, Philippines, I know it's humid. I know it's going to be a little warm, but I can handle it. I can handle it, but it is like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. One of the most humid climates I've ever experienced. I mean, think about if you've ever been to Florida in the middle of summer and it's just rained and there's steam everywhere. That's what it feels like here. Crank it up about twice of that. Now it stays, at least in Cebu, high 70s to mid 80s. Nothing super extreme when it comes to heat. It is really the humidity that is going to get to you. When I first moved here, about the first month, I was changing clothes, and I was in shorts and t-shirts, and I was changing clothes because they were soaked about 3 times a day, just because I was sweating so much. The plus side was I lost a lot of water weight doing so, so that was nice. Um, I think the other main thing that you really have to adapt to is that it's just a different culture. It's not going to work the way it does in your country. And you have to be patient. The Philippines has definitely taught me patience. One of the main things for me having to get used to was going to the grocery store. Not so dissimilar to going to a grocery store in the West, where you go, you get a cart, you pick out your food, it's the line. Um, you go and there'll be 5 people in front of you, right? Normally in the West, at least in America, it takes you, 10 minutes max that you're sitting there in line waiting on if you're actually doing a cashier instead of self-checkout. They don't have self-checkout here, by the way. It's always cashiers. And they are always talking to their friends, and I've literally sat behind 3 people in line waiting with my grocery cart for an hour. So that is something that you need to be prepared for sure. This is Filipino time. It's island time. Things just move slower. They move at their own pace. You can't expect them to be like us because they aren't. And I think now I'm used to it. I think it's great. I love the slower pace. It's taught me to just appreciate the moment and slow down and smell the roses, and also patience, lots and lots of patience. Um, the other thing coming, at least to a lot of different Asian countries, that you're going to experience is poverty. And I'm not talking just normal, run-of-the-mill homeless poverty. I'm talking like children on the streets begging for money, starving. people with literally no clothes on their back because they can't afford clothes and sleeping on the sidewalk, essentially. Trash will be everywhere, especially here in Cebu. I don't know about the rest of the Philippines, but here in Cebu, plastic is everywhere, everywhere. And it boggles my mind as a Westerner. I mean, I've always had a soft spot for homeless people, even in the West. I feel bad, if not a little bit responsible for that. And here it is heart-wrenching. It makes our Western homelessness seem like a cakewalk, honestly, because at least in the West, they have resources where they can go get help with mental health issues or possibly get on assistance programs if they need it. I don't think there's any of that in place here. I think most of the homeless people really just rely on the kindness of others. And Filipinos are very, very kind people, but the main issue here is that most people, if you're working a 9 to 5, the average salary here is about $200 to $300 USD per month. That's what they survive on. And it is possible. I mean, they do it. Absolutely, they do it. I don't think I personally could do it. But my hat's off to them for making it work. And I do really feel for, especially the children that you see in the streets. That's tough. Lots of stray dogs as well. More than any other country that I've ever been to. I thought the Middle East had a lot of stray dogs. Nothing compared to, I mean, they're everywhere. Everywhere. It's a real problem here. Now, luckily, none of them are. I've never witnessed one that's vicious or anything like that, where they attacked a human. I've seen them get in fights with each other, but nothing like ridiculous. But there is a lot of disease in the dogs. Rabies, mange is a huge problem here. You see a lot of sick dogs. Also, if you're a dog lover, that's hugely heartbreaking. There's not much you can do about it. It's just the way it is, and that's something that you have to learn to adapt to. Still very much a dog lover. I still, give them food when I can. But when you're out on a normal day, you're riding on your bike or you're in a taxi, whatever, you're going to pass hundreds of them on a daily basis. That's something that you've got to be aware of. That's it for today's video. Thank you for joining me. I hope you learned a little bit and enjoyed what you saw and heard. I will see you in the next video. I look forward to it. Talk to you then.